Good morning, and welcome to this second day of the user meeting 2015 of Dyalog. This is a presentation on user interfaces in MiServer 3. It is not a presentation on how MiServer itself works, but on the controls themselves. So as Morten explained yesterday, to create a page in MiServer 3, you need to have a class. And that class must have at least one method called compose, which is responsible for building the layout of the page, for composing the page. So this method is responsible for adding elements and widgets to the page. Add here is a keyword. You really have a method to add elements and widgets to the page. If you, what we're going to be showing you today is available. You can download MiServer 3 and repeat all the examples we're going to show you today. We hope that after the conference there will be a site, probably with this name here, where you will be able to test all the examples without actually downloading MiServer 3. But it's not done yet. Once you download MiServer 3, you will notice that the examples for MiServer are actually in a folder. If you look up there, we have MS3, which is the folder, under which you have examples, under which you have some other folders, and in one of these folders, you have some examples. Here we have button simple, which is an example, under MS3, examples DC. So if I start APL, and I start MiServer, I load the workspace, and then I start MiServer. You can see now that MiServer has started on port 8080. So if I go now in a browser, and, well, it's already loaded. If I go over here, and I say examples, and in this case it's already in the bar. So examples, DC, button simple, which is the name that we were seeing a moment ago. If I hit this, then I should get a page that shows me what the example looks like. Now, if you want to see what the code looks like, at the moment there's only one button. This is the example. I can press on the D over here, and I get the code that is associated with the page. As you can see, it's a class. It has a compose method right over here, which is public. And as you look, we add a button, and then we associate a callback method with the click event, and then we add a division, which will, at the moment is empty, but will contain something later. Whenever we click on the callback, on the button, the callback method will be called, and the output will be replaced with a paragraph that says, thank you. And that's it. That's all what this page does. And if we go back here in the code, you can see that below here there's absolutely nothing, but whenever I press the button, press me, the text, thank you, appears. So I'm going to show you now some other examples. This is what the MiServer 3's example page looks like. So you have all the information about MiServer itself. You have the sections on the left. We have a list of controls over here. They're divided into Dyalog controls, Syncfusion controls, jQuery controls, and basic HTML controls. So for example, if I pick, for example, tables, this is what this example looks like. And if you want to see the code, I can come over here and see what the code looks like. As you can see, just to build this table here with HTML elements, I need to set the title, create my data, add a table, and for each row in my data, I add a row, tr element. And for each one of the rows, for each one of the columns in my data, I add a data element to that row. So this is a little bit complicated, but this is the end result here. So this element, this HTML element was table with a small t, we've created a table with a capital T. And it displays exactly the same thing. But when you look at the code, it's a lot simpler. All you have to do now is add a table and the data that you want to be displayed with. Now, you can do all kinds of things. If I go back to the one that I had here before. Oh, by the way, if I want to see related samples, I can click on this, and it says, here's another example that goes with this one here. And let's try this one. And you can see now that this is using HTML elements, but is obviously different. And if you look at the code, should be showing the code. Yeah, okay. You can see that it's more complicated. I have code to add text and paragraphs. The table is still added here, but now I'm adding column groups. This is more complicated, but look at the end result. And this one responds to click events. For example, if I click here, it gives me new data. And if I click on the rows at the bottom, it sums up the rows above it. So it's more complicated, but you can still do a lot of things with it. If you have something which is really complicated, you would like to have, for example, pages that flip, and then you want to sort and do all kinds of things. There are some widgets that Syncfusion provides that we can use. And if we look at Syncfusion's, if we look at grids, for example, there's an example here. And this one is much more elaborated. You can see you've got 190 items that are displayed on 16 pages. And all this movement that we have here with pages going to the, moving pages forward, backwards, going to the end, it's all handled by the widget itself. And if you look at the code, it's not very complicated. We first set the values, all the variables that are needed for this, and then all the compose method does is put a title and call the EJGrid widget with the proper information, proper arguments. So this one does a lot of things and you have very little to do. So I'm going to show you some other examples we have available. If we go into navigation here, we have an accordion. And this one simply just an accordion. If you look at the code, it's very simple. You add the text, you add the accordion, and then you set the titles and the sections, and that's it. That's what the end result looks like. So it's fairly easy to use. We have another one which is, here's a menu. And by the way, if you want, you can always go out here and pop this one out and it goes all by itself. So now we have menus, and they can react on clicked events and things like that. Again, if we look at the code here, click on the D, and and if you look on the left here, by the way, as you can see, there's a sort of a legend on the left that tells you which controls are being used in the example. So if you want to have some more information, you can click on, for example, if you want to have more information on this one. I'm not going to click now because this is going to move me to Syncfusion's website, and it's going to take about 15 minutes to load. Okay. Some other ones we have are, let's see, tab. See, we have 3 tabs here. 1, 2, 3. Again, it's not very complicated. You set the titles, the contents, and just add the element, the AJ tab at the bottom with the captions and the content. We have a list manager somewhere that I wanted to show you. Dialog controls. List manager. So this one here you can drop into another area. Bring back over here. And if you look at the code, it's not overly complicated either. Another one would be layout. Date picker. Here's one. So now you can pick a date. You can select the month, the year, even the. I can pick this year, this one, May 6. This is when I'm going to turn 150 years old. So, other controls we have audio. I don't know if this is going to work. Yeah, it does. Button we've seen, data list is another one. So here I click on this one and I can see if as soon as I type something, for example, there's three names that start with three choices that start with T, then I get a drop down list and I can complete. If I press on it, it says you selected 3. So again, the code is not very complicated. Edit field. Here's color picker. Here's another example. So you can select colors. For example, I can change this. I get a new set of colors. Here's another one, field set. I can type my name. And as you can see, as soon as I type something, the text is updated at the bottom. And the text again, the code for doing this is not very complicated. Other examples that we would have, datetime picker, timer maybe. Do we have a timer in here? Tree view is another example. Here I select an item. I can go down here, select another one. And every time it's updated at the bottom. And here again, it's not very complicated. I set the items, and when I add the element here, I just add with the items next to it as an argument. Okay, this one every 5 seconds will make something appear on the screen. Sorry. Another one is UL, where you can have a list of unordered elements. Oh yeah, okay, that's a good one. Yeah, again, you see these are HTML elements, not the ones that we've created, but something that is native to native HTML, basic elements. Other elements that we could show you, there was track. Oh, there's one which is really interesting. It's the charts. Fusion data visualization. Here's one. So if you have complex data, you can use the tools from Syncfusion to visualize this in a neat way anyway. And it's very simple. You just create your chart and add the data that you need to display according to their rules. Another one is tag cloud. And this one we just use the variables and the size of the variables in the workspace to give you an idea of how this works. So MiServer here is smaller in size as my page, which is bigger than Logger and JSON and so on. Now, there's been a number of, these are examples, but there's also been some examples, more elaborated examples created, and Adám here has been creating some of them, and he's going to be showing them to you right now.
So, I have a son who is 3.5. He's lately been learning the alphabet. Obviously, he starts with the Yiddish alphabet because that's his first language. And so he has this CD that goes through the alphabet and teaches him words that begin with that letter, and sings songs about it and about the sound. And but what I was missing was some visual connection to how does the letter actually look. So I was sitting one evening with him, and I was showing him the letters, and I thought, hey, I have to do this. I could make some applications to teach him this. I think obviously it has to be made in APL. That's the only thing I know. And what's the easiest way to create an interface? Easiest, quickest way to create an interface has to be not just something I can use, something that a 3-year-old can use. And of course I go, well, MiServer. That's what we're doing. I told him, listen, if you give me some quiet time, I'll make something for you. And he did. It took from the first inception of the idea until I had a working program that's basically this. I added some features and some formatting later, but something that he could use that looked very much like this. It took 2 hours. And so this works with part of the time, of course. Yeah, let's reload this. It took 2 hours, but also remember that part of that was me sitting and recording my own voice, so that when you actually click on the letters, they will say the names of the letters. It has interactivity, asking him to find a specific letter and then reacting to it if it's not right, giving him a chance to hear it again, and reacting with something that remember he's 3 years old. He has to have something that even have a cheat function. So let's say he doesn't know it, and you will show him this, but also tell him it's not okay that he's asking for the answer. And the feature that he is the most excited about is actually this one, clearing the page, because every time he makes a mistake, he doesn't want anybody to know. So he clears that. That was a feature I added because he asked for it. He kept pressing F5 to reload the page to clean it up. So. And then, of course, he does something I added later also, is random coloring of the letters every time he reloads, because that's something he requested too. And all these things that I added later, a few minutes, he told me, I want something. I went into to APL, updated the class, and reloaded the page, and here we go. It's all very easy, very very smooth. And really had this interactivity with him. He asks for a feature, I go in, I make it, and then he's happy, and you keep going, he asks for something else. So it's a very, very smooth process. And in fact, with all this that it can do, there's not a whole lot of code. And some of it is just very straightforward. I have a couple of utilities to make my life easier. And of course the required compose function. And so I'm setting up formatting with MiServer. The right way to style things in MiServer is using cascading style CSS, of which there's plenty of documentation for. It's a very good language for specifying styling. So anybody who has any knowledge in that can use that right away. Otherwise, it's very easy to find out. When I started off with this, I didn't know anything about CSS, and it's very simple to use. Then what I do, as Dan was saying, I'm adding things to the page. So this is my utility functions on top of the menu bar. I'm adding each button by itself. I add a handler that just takes anything that's marked as a menu button, and it assigns a callback function to that, and has a special function to add the keyboard that was something I broke out later in order to be able to update the keyboard to make a new one. But it's really, again, very, very easy. We just add one button for each letter. And callback. Really, I really like this one because this is so simple. We're asking what was the request to do, what was being clicked, and either we play it, sound a boo, sound what's going on, print something. It's a very, very straightforward handling, and that is all there's to it. And it really works. And he's really happy about it, and he's been spending many more hours using this than I've been spending implementing it, which is of course good. And he's very not happy about me not being at home this week, so he can't use this. Here, something Morten demonstrated shortly. That was one of the very first things that I tried to put together, a couple of controls to do some searching, and yeah. Thanks to Morten for the nice formatting. Again, there's a search function, lookup, and some very simple interface. The code here is very simple. The first part is formatting. Again, it's always the same pattern: adding things to the page, assigning a handler for what's going on. You can add more things, and as Dan was demonstrating before, also, if you want to later put something more on the page, we need to prepare it, so create an empty placeholder. Everything has the structure always has to be there from the beginning. The callback, of course, that's triggered by entering things into the search field. There's some regular APL to find the data, and reaction to whether we found it. We can either we have these two parts of data, and we append. So instead of replacing things, we append more data as we find it. So it can be this long process, and you can put anything in there. You can later replace it. We can push things down. We can add things to the end. Many options for that. Another example is this. No, this doesn't have any AI. This is not important to show what's going on here. But even to create interfaces that are not just text, it's fairly simple. Actually, based on text, but yeah. But to add interactivity, you can react to various things going on, and various checks. All this that's going on here. Again, not very much code for all the different checks that it's doing. Some logic and setup. This is all plain APL. And again, the system of adding elements and nesting them inside each other. There really could be smarter ways to do this than manually putting together and everything, but this works. And we also add the button with callbacks. We're assigning here callbacks for click for all the placeholders for the X's and the O's. And the callback function does all the logic checking. It just the only really interesting thing here is what we're asking again what was clicked or pulled or whatever the action is that we're doing, and do all the logic. And the reaction, of course, are statements that have replace for replacing things that are on the page. We can output messages. Those are the pop-ups we saw. And that's all there's really to it. It's really easy to make things in MiServer, and really really fast to do it.
So these are the 3 applications that Adam worked on. As you can see, it's not very, very complicated. You can do a lot of things with very little. You've got all these widgets and tools that you can use. And that pretty much concludes this presentation here.